So the first coach is Indiana's Curt Signetti. Ohio State's Ryan Day is in this group, Oregon's Dan Lanning, and Illinois' Bret Bielema. So Indiana's Curt Signetti, he's the only one with an A+ grade. He actually got the highest grade. So right now he's the king of Big Ten coaches, right? I'm not saying he's the best coach, to be clear, in the Big Ten. I am saying through his 1 year versus all the other coaches' current performance in their job, he's done the best job relative to, prior performance and just overall what he's done on the job, right? So for Indiana, with the exception of brief periods of winning, they've basically been the worst team in the Big Ten when it comes to performance. The numbers bear that out. Historically, they're the all-time losingest program in Division I history, right? And so going 8-1 in conference, which Cignetti did, that's an 89% win rate. He made it to the 12-team college playoff, right? He went 11-2 in overall. And if you look at that 89% win rate, I know it's 1 year, but that's all we have. The prior 5 years, you're looking at a 33% win rate for Indiana. 14-29 they went. The prior 15 years in conference, Indiana won 25% of the time. That is easily, actually not easily. It beats out Illinois by a little bit as the worst winning percentage over that 15 years in the Big Ten. So him coming in and going 8-1, and I know they had an easy schedule, right? But you still have to play the schedule you're given, and they had the highest amount of a winning margin of any team, also. So easy schedule, but they're beating the pants off of people, right? And so for that reason, Curt Signetti gets an A+. It's a 1 year sample size. So if he does poorly, these numbers could flip tremendously, right, in 1 year. But based on this, he's number one in the Big Ten. All right, let's go to number 2, Ohio State's Ryan Day. So we know the story on Ryan Day, right? Some wanted him fired after the upset loss to Michigan, right? He goes from that to winning the national championship. And by all counts, based on that and the data, Ryan Day deserves an A. So he gets an A. His conference winning percent is 90%. He's gone 47-5 over 6 years. 4 of the 5 losses have been to Michigan, right? So that's been the bugaboo for him. The 1-point Oregon loss is the only other loss he's had outside of Michigan. That's incredible, just incredible performance. He's 47-1 against the rest of the Big Ten beyond Michigan. And the other thing is his comps are tough. He took over for Urban Meyer, and Urban Meyer, as you all know, did amazing at Ohio State. So he actually has a 5 percentage point better mark than than the prior 15 years at Ohio State. So not all that 15 years included Urban Meyer, but it also included some of the Jim Tressel era. It did include the 1 year of Luke Fickell that was like 6-6 or something like that, right, JR? But really 5% better mark than the majority of Urban Meyer era versus the last 5 years, which was directly on the Urban Meyer era, same winnings percentage. Urban Meyer was 37-4 in conference in his 5 years before Fickell took over. So that's just any way you slice it. He won the national title, right? He has a 70-10 overall record. That's 88% overall win rank. That ranks 3rd all-time among Division I coaches with at least 75 games. Only Newt Rockne and Walter Camp, who are legends, have better records than Ryan Day, right? And then the fact he won a natty. Now, I published this and post something on Reddit, and some guy said, "Are you crazy? How does Ryan Day not get an A+ because he just won the national title?" You can make that argument, actually, right? I mean, I think it depends on how you view the Michigan losses. I think some Ohio State fans might say he gets an A- to me, right? Even winning the national title. So I'm not saying these rankings are perfect, but I think it's clear he's in the A category for sure. All right, number 3, we're going to go Oregon's Dan Lanning. All right, I give him an A just so you know. I mean, Could a team have any better regular season in a new conference than Oregon's Dan Lanning had, right? The Ducks came in and they mostly dominated the Big Ten. They won an unbeaten 13-0 after beating Penn State in the championship game. He completed his third season in Eugene and has gone 24-4 overall. And so, by the way, I decided in the cases for the Pac-10 coaches coming in to include their Pac-10 record. So we're saying he's 3 years, right, into this job, which he is at Oregon, right? So that's fair. So he's 24-4, 2 years in the Pac-12, 1 year in the Big Ten. That's an 86% win rate. So that's really second best to actually third best to Ryan Day and Curt Signetti. This rate is 20% point rate better than the prior 5 years at Oregon. So that 86% is 20 points better than the 66% winning rate in the 5 prior years of the coaches before Dan Lanning came on board. And then versus the prior 15 years, he's a 12% rate better. So this is the key metric, right? Oregon was winning at a really good clip, right? 73% over 15-year time period. That's really good. That would actually have ranked second in the Big Ten, even better than Michigan, right? They would be second to Ohio State when it comes to a winning percentage in conference. Now, the bugaboo for him, 2-1 in bowl games. And unfortunately, that includes the surprising blowout 41-21 loss to Ohio State, right? So I'd give him an A+ if it wasn't for that loss. I just have to quote downgrade him to an A, if you will. It was a sour way to end the season. But if you're an Oregon fan, you have to feel great about things. He's heading into year 4. And just to remind everyone, the two after this season, if you look at rankings of all college coaches, the two that are the top 2, Kirby Smart comes in number 1. Ryan Day comes in number 2 as the 2 top coaches in college football. They didn't win their first natties till their year 6 on the job. Lanning's entering year 4. He's on track, right? He is on track. And so thing looks good there. So he's my third one. And my final A grade level coach is Illinois' Bret Bielema. I give him an A as well. He just completed a surprisingly good season in his 4th year at Illinois. He went 6-3 in conference. He went 10-3 overall. And importantly for the Big Ten, a huge win over South Carolina in the Citrus Bowl. And he finished 20th in the final AP rankings. Next year, expectations super high for him. They returned the majority of their starters. JR, I think it's like 19 of 22 starters or something in that realm.
I think they have 21 of their starters from their bowl game. It's like 19 from the season or something like that. Yeah, it's very, very high up there.
Very high up there. And if you look at the prognosticators, way too early top 20, top 25s, that Illinois is consistently there, right? Usually in the top 20. Some have them up as high as up to 10th. So Bielema stats, in fact, are second best in the Big Ten compared to Curt Signetti. When you look at comparisons, his record, which is, by the way, through 4 seasons in the Big Ten, he's only 18-18 in conference. So that's a 50% win rate. But his comps are the prior 5 years tenure at Illinois is only a 30% win rate. In the prior 15 years, it was only a 27% win rate. So he was taking over a program that was really bad for a long time. Illinois for a while was, Illinois is on my schedule. That's a W, right? And so that's why he's getting a high comp here, even though he's only has a 500 record, but he's building, right? But it's 20% better win rate than the prior 5 and 23% better than the prior 15. He's 1-1 in bowl games, and then 28-22 for a 56% win rate overall. The other thing to highlight here, he has a 61% win rate overall. So that, of course, includes his time at Wisconsin. That's just something to keep in mind. He was 68-24 over 7 years at Wisconsin. That's a 74% win rate. and that included 2 Rose Bowl appearances. I'm not using that for that A ranking. Remember, we're talking about currently on the job, but I'm only saying that because Illinois fans, and the reason why a lot of people love the future of Illinois is just factoring in how well he did at a school like Wisconsin, which had really good resources, but not the kind that Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State has, right? And so he's my 4 of the 18 coaches with A rankings. With that, I'll stop. JR, give me your thoughts on the A grade coaches.
Yeah, I think you're on point here. I think Curt Signetti, the biggest thing with him, and I said it during the season. A lot of people knocked him for his schedule and said, well, these are teams you should be blowing out. And I told people, I said, yeah, Indiana was one of those teams a year ago. Now look what he's doing. Now he's winning games like Ohio State and Oregon and them do. Now in that Ohio State game, we saw that he still has, some development to do for his program. It's really, really hard to come in year one for Indiana like that. And on obviously the recruiting isn't the same place that it's at for Ohio State and Oregon right now. But I mean, just looking at Cignetti and where he's at and the expectations of the program, it's an obvious A plus. I was thinking like your Reddit friends were thinking, guy wins a national championship and he just gets an A, it's like,
Fair.
but
Yep.
that is a part of the expectations at Ohio State. They expect to win national championships. Maybe the win total isn't as high as you might expect, but you are expected to win national championships. And I think in this new age of college football, like we could see this happen. We could see a Georgia go 9-3 and then win the national championship or something like that with the way things go. Dan Lanning, it's interesting, didn't win a postseason game because of the bye. And they played Ohio State in the very first one. He still gets an A. I don't know if that so much means that the expectations for Oregon are, substantially lower. I think it's just, you had a good season there your first year. You're also, have expectations for Dan Lanning, only his 3rd year in head coaching. So you have to take that into account. So I think he has a bright future ahead, and I think Oregon fans have a lot to be excited about with Dan Lanning. I've sang his praise a number of times on here. And then, the Bret Bielema. I can't say I disagree at all with an A for him. I would have thought close to an A plus. Maybe if they got one more win, I would have thought of maybe an A plus just because of where this program was, kind of like you were talking about. Obviously, it probably wouldn't have got them in. Maybe it would have got them closer to the playoffs. I don't think they would have got in at 10-2. But still, I mean, a 10-win season at Illinois, being able to do that's fantastic. And you take into account what he did at Wisconsin. He's just a really good coach, and he continues to show it year after year, in my opinion.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. Should I jump into the B tranche here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So we have 3 B grade coaches. We have Penn State's James Franklin, Minnesota's PJ Fleck, and Iowa's.
Oh, did we want to go through comments really fast? I apologize. Yeah. I forgot to do that.
Yeah, we could we want to take a couple?
Yeah, let's take a couple comments really fast. So, exploring with Ben and Sam. I think may be the first time I've seen you guys in the chat. I apologize if it's not, but thanks for being here. Dan Lanning fans here says, yep, Lanning is an A by far. Riley is trash. Riley's not too much trash, right? He's C minus on here, but I think we'll get into him here in just a second. And our friend Jack on Bucks, he said absolutely correct. You have to judge a coach on how they perform versus the program standard. Absolutely, yeah. I think we're on the right track there. And then just a bunch of other comments with Bert and people like that. So yeah, I think we're good there. All right. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, remember in my article, I have this table right in the article, so you can access it right off of bigjeffs.com. So, all right,